So far in this lesson, you guys have studied the digestive system and the excretory system. One way in which these two are connected has to do with nitrogenous wastes. When we eat and digest proteins and nucleic acids found in pretty much all of our food, we have to break them down and we produce toxic wastes that contain nitrogen. We must process and get rid of these nitrogenous wastes or they can poison our body. Depending on the type of organism is depending on how these substances are disposed of. We are going to compare and contrast the three types of nitrogenous wastes. Ammonia is a direct byproduct of protein synthesis. This type of nitrogenous waste is most commonly used by aquatic animals such as fishes. Ammonia is the most toxic of the three wastes. Because of its toxicity, ammonia needs more water to dilute it to allow it to be safely disposed of. Fish can dispose of ammonia because they are living in aquatic ecosystems where water is in abundance. This is advantageous for fish because they do not need to spend any energy modifying ammonia. They just dispose of it directly using a large amount of water. However, in other organisms, water is not always in abundance, so they must have other strategies to help them dispose of nitrogenous wastes. Another strategy used by mammals, amphibians, sharks, and some bony fish is the production of urea. Urea is moderately toxic. It is less toxic than ammonia, but more toxic than uric acid, which we will talk about in a minute. This means that it requires a moderate amount of water to dispose of. A trade-off for this moderate toxicity and moderate amount of water is that these animals have to put some energy into producing urea. You can see from the chemical structure of urea that it is more complex than that of ammonia. Because of this, energy is needed to make urea. The third type of nitrogenous waste we will look at is uric acid. Uric acid is produced by many reptiles, including birds, some insects, and land snails. Uric acid is the least toxic of the three types of nitrogenous wastes. This one also requires less water to dispose of. In fact, uric acid actually requires so little water that it actually comes out as a paste. For example, if you ever see the white goop that birds leave behind, most of that whiteness is not actually feces from the digestive tract. It is the uric acid in a lovely paste that the birds have excreted from their urinary tract. The trade-off here is again energy. This compound requires more energy to produce than either of the other two. Again, we see from the chemical compound and chemical structure of uric acid, it is far more complex than urea or ammonia. We see an inverse relationship between the amount of energy needed to produce these molecules and the amount of water needed to dispose of these molecules. The more toxic these molecules are, the more water is needed to dispose of them. The less toxic they are, the more energy is needed to actually produce them. So, we know that the digestive system brings in the nitrogen through our food, and that those nitrogenous wastes have to be disposed of with the excretory system. Depending on the kind of animal we're looking at, determines what kind of wastes will be produced and disposed of. So, be sure you can compare and contrast the three types of wastes, which is more complex, which takes more energy to produce, which requires more water to dispose of, and which is the least toxic.